and welcome to this second part on different techniques of meditation, Kabbalistic meditation techniques, lesson 2. In the previous lesson, that I encourage you to go back and see it again, or if you haven't seen it, to go and see that first part. We cover the concept of Tzeruf, and we also covered other concepts that are very important to keep in mind, like the mifta, which is a concept of pronunciation, proper pronunciation, the michtav, which is the writing, the mashav, which is also the thought, the cognitive aspect of when we are working with the letters, the Hebrew letters, while we're doing these meditations. So it's very important to go back and learn about the Tzeruf, and also about these concepts that we need to keep in mind when we are using Hebrew letters for meditation. In this second lesson, we're going to talk about the Shiluv and Yichud, and we're going to see some examples, and at the end of this lesson, we're going to Welcome back. As I mentioned before, we're going to be talking today about Shiluv and Yichud. Before we start talking about Shiluv and Yichud as part of our Kabbalistic meditation techniques series, I want to touch base on previous concepts that we need to keep in mind when we are doing these meditations. And these concepts are the concepts of miftah, michtav, and mashav. So remember, as we're doing these meditations, we need to be familiarized with the Hebrew letters that we're meditating with, and with the names and the concepts that we are meditating from, the Torah, Psalms, depending which book you're using. You have to understand it. And this is very important to have in mind, because the miftah, michtav, and mashav are interconnected concepts. You have to make sure that you know the part that is called miftah, the pronunciation. You gotta make sure that you understand how to pronounce properly the names of God, or the letters, the Hebrew letters that compose the names of God, and also that you understand that the concepts of any verse of the Torah that you're meditating about. Also, the michtab, the writing, the written aspect. Basically, you will be concentrating on the sacred act of scribing letters with precision and reverence, because sometimes you're going to have to write these letters down in order to do the yichud that you are going to meditate on, right? So you have to understand how to make these letters. You have to make sure that, for example, that if you're writing a dalet, this dalet doesn't look like a resh. Or when you're writing a ayin, that this ayin doesn't look like a sadi, and things like that. And then the mashab, the thought, which is a cognitive aspect. And this is understanding the meaning behind the letters and the words that you're meditating. So, for example, we have the letter Dalet. The letter Dalet signifies door, right? Dalet. But also in Kabbalah, Dalet signifies the poor, right? I also have the numerical value of 4. So, if it has the numerical value of 4 and is a poor, in Kabbalah, we will use this letter also to signify Malchut. So if you understand all these aspects of these, the Hebrew letters, and then in the meditation, all these things are going to give you a better insight and a better connection to what you are trying to achieve with your meditation. So make sure you keep that in mind. These concepts are very important to keep in mind. If you want to go over these concepts again, watch the first lesson. If you haven't seen the first lesson, see the first lesson, because in there we're talking about the Tzeruf, and also we're talking about these three concepts that we need to make sure that we understand. So let's go to the Shiluv. The Shiluv is the Kabbalistic practice of interweaving or integrating divine names and attributes. It involves combining different elements to create a harmonious and powerful spiritual structure. So here is like we are creating a tapestry of different energies, because these letters are vessels that contain energy, and we're putting them together in a way that it will create a structure that we're going to meditate on. Something to keep in mind is that in Kabbalah, we don't talk about mixing things. We do connections and we do unifications. We don't mix things. When things are mixed, that means that it's broken. You're breaking something. For example, the Shevirat HaKelim was a breaking that mixed good and evil. Therefore, we needed the tikkun of the word of Atzilut. The breaking of the soul of Adam into the many pieces that we are is also a mixing of good and evil. We are a mix of good and evil. We have Yetzer Hatov and Yetzer Hara, right? We have a good inclination and bad inclination because they're mixed. And instead of us trying to destroy the evil inclination, what we need to do is unify these opposite concepts in a way that they are creating a harmonious and powerful structure that will work together and bring harmony and balance in the universe. And this is what we're trying to do with these meditations that and the Shiluv. So we have some examples of interweaving divine names using, the Shiluv concept. For example, we have the Yod and the Vav and Adonai. One common Shiluv practice involves the interweaving of the tetragrammaton, the Yod Vav, with Adonai, another name for God. This can be done letter by letter, creating a new integrated name. For example, Yod, Aleph, Hey, Dalet, Vav, Nun, Hey, and the Yod. So you have the Yod, He, Va, and the He from the tetragrammaton. And then from Adonai, we're going to have the Aleph, Dalet, Nun, and the Yod. And this is how we put them together, and in creating this structure in which we are basically meditating. In this case, we're meditating in the energies that come from the Creator towards Adonai. Adonai is Malchut, right? Malchut, how we are receivers and the Creator is a giver. How we can receive this eternal light in our vessel. How we can also transform our vessel into a vessel of bestowal, like the Yod He is telling us. But also remember, even though this name represents Malchut, which is a receiver, and this name represents the giver, inside the giver we have also 4 letters that are unified to the name Adonai, because each of these letters is going to work together with these letters. You can meditate on them in let's say in this case, you can meditate by dividing this into 4 and 4 letters, or 2 by 2 letters, or 1 letter giving to the other one and this one giving to this one. There are different ways to meditate on this, as long as this name it creates a integrated structure, and there's a lot of insights that you can get from this unification, or this interweaving of this name. Combining names to invoke specific attributes. For example, El Shaddai and Elohim. We have El Shaddai. El Shaddai is from Yesod and Elohim is Geburah. Combining these two names can be used to invoke both the nurturing aspect of God, El Shaddai, and the aspect of justice and power, which is Elohim. For example, we do the same thing we did with the Tetragrammaton and the name Adonai. We interwoven these two names and the result would be Aleph Aleph, Lamed Lamed, Hey, Shin, Yod, Dalet, Mem, and the Yod. And once again, you have here a whole structure that you can meditate as long as you follow the three concepts that we mentioned before, right? That you know the pronunciation, the sound of the letter, the symbolism of how the letter is written, right? And also the symbolism, spiritual symbolism behind it. So you have the sound, you have what is called the vessel, which is the form of that letter, and then the light that each letter had, which is the symbolism behind it, whether it is an attribute of a numerical attribute, whether it is a spiritual attribute that is given. For example, the Aleph is given the attribute of, let's say, Ein Sof, and then the Hey is given the attribute depending on which Hey is. For example, the name Yod He Vav, the first Hey is Binah, the last one is Malchut, and the Vav is Seramping. While this Yod is actually Ava Ve'ima, which is Chokmah and also Keter with the tip of the Yod. So this is something to keep in mind, because we have to meditate on these things in a way that will give us this insight and will connect us to these energies. So the same thing here. We have to make sure that we know the symbolism, the meaning, the sound of each letter in order to understand the structure that we are creating by combining these names. Now, integrating names for protection. So when he says for protection, it's not just like the in a video that I did about the red string. It's not that the physical thing, the red string, is going to protect you. It's what kind of symbolism this red string represents, right? What kind of energy, mental and spiritual energy, this object is representing and will awaken in you in order to receive this protection. So in this case, it's the same thing. When you put together the Yohe and the Vahe and El Shaddai, we're talking here, remember, about the forces of Keter, Chokmah, and Bina, and then Shaddai is the forces of Yesod, right? So here's giving and transmitting, and who's receiving this transmission, right? Is us. So we're the vessel that receive to create a powerful protective name, right? So we're receiving protection from this name. But this is a way to create a spiritual key to open a gate in spirituality that will send a light to our vessel, and in this way we will be protected, right? Protected not only from others, protected not only from evil things that happen in our lives, but also to protect us from ourselves, because we are the ones that most of the time damage our own vessel or sabotage our own life. So here, when we put them together, we see the Yod, the He, the Vav, and the He, and then the Shin and the Dalet and the Yod from Shaddai. And this is how we create this name. We meditate on this name and we ask the Creator for the protection. Some people do this, and then at the end there's traditional prayers for protection, and they use these prayers as well as a complementary way of finishing this meditation. Now, these letters also can be combined for healing, so to awaken the healing powers within ourselves or transmit healing energy to another person. So I know a lot of people are familiarized with the concept of transmitting energy with the hands. There's techniques out there just like Reiki and pranic healing and things like that. That's something that is real. And Kabbalah does that, not necessarily the same way as those traditions, but we do that as well. But we do it visualizing Hebrew letters and names of God or name of angels. And these names, for example, in this case, we are combining the letters for healing of the angel Raphael and the word Shalom, integrating the names of the archangel of healing Raphael with the Hebrew word for peace, Shalom, to create a name invoking both healing and peace. So the same way, we got Resh, Pei, Aleph, and then the Lamed from Raphael, and then for Shalom we have the Shin, the Lamed, the Vav, and the Mem. Okay. Also, interweaving names to balance divine attributes. So in our lives, sometimes we will find that we have some kind of unbalance in our lives, whether it has to do with our emotional situation or mental situation, or even the physical, like financial situation and relationships, right? So this is a way also to use these divine attributes that we'll find in the tree of life, the name of the Sephiroth. We can actually do this as well. We can combine the names of these names, and this is something to keep in mind, because some of these names, like in the case of Chesed and Geburah, Chesed only has 3 letters, yet Geburah has 5 letters. So how we actually combine or put together these names in a way that makes sense, right? So in here, what we're doing is we're combining the attributes of mercy and judgment to meditate on them. And what we do is we put the Chet, the Samek, and the Dalet, right? And then we put Geburah, Gimel, Beit, the Vav, and the rest of the letters, Resh and Hey. And the reason we put in first, the Het for Chesed is because Chesed is in a higher position than Geburah, than judgment, right? So that's the first letter we're gonna use. But then again, like I mentioned before, you can put the Geburah before the Chesed and meditate on that as well, and how too much judgment with not enough Chesed, cannot bring evil in the world. And also these names also can help us understand how also too much Chesed, too much loving kindness can also bring evil into the world. And that's the reason we put them together, to bring balance between these two forces. But specifically this way, because this is the order that they appear in the tree of life. Chesed first and then Geburah. Okay? But if you put it different, we put Geburah first, so the Gimel will be here before the Het. What we're trying to see is the way up. The way up. Instead of seeing the way down of the light, we're seeing now the way back up. How from judgment we become mercy, full of mercy and things like that. Okay? So those are things to keep in mind when we're doing these meditations. So the practical use in meditation of the Shiluv, for this, we can follow these steps. Not necessarily like that. Like I said, there's different traditions, and there might be different steps than the ones I'm showing you right now, but these are the general steps. Select a divine name or attribute. Choose names or attributes that hold significant spiritual meaning and that you wish to integrate. Then interweave the letters. Combine the letters of the chosen names or attributes in an interwoven manner, typically alternating letters from each name. Contemplate the integrated name. Meditate on the meaning and spiritual significance of the integrated name. Reflect on how these combined attributes or name create a balanced and harmonious spiritual force. Remember, we're here to bring balance. We're not mixing. Mixing create chaos, and it's not balance. It's just chaos, right? Here, we're bringing balance. And then visualize and recite. Visualize the interwoven letters and recite the integrated name during meditation, focusing on the desired spiritual effect, protection, healing, balance, and things like that. Now, an example meditation with the Yod and the Vav and Adonai, which we mentioned before, right? So you have the initial names, the Yod, He, and the Vav He, and the Adonai. Then you put together the letters, and the result will be Yod Aleph He Dalet Vav Nun He Yod. And what the meditation is going to be all about is the following. You're going to meditate on the integrated name, the complete name, right? Contemplating the unity and harmony of God's transcendent and immanent aspects. Visualize the letters interweaving and focus on the combined attributes of mercy, justice, power, and presence. Okay? And why mercy, justice, and power? Because remember, we have a Yod that has all that, and then the presence, which is Adonai, which is the vessel that receives, the receiver, bringing down this energy towards us. Okay, this is a very simple meditation. It's one that, if you practice this meditation every day, will help you a lot in your everyday prayers. Whether you are Jewish or not, this is a meditation that you can do, and to help you focus spiritually every morning in your day-to-day life. Now, I have another example meditation with the Yod, He, Vav, He, and the Adonai. And this is by impregnating the 72 names using the name Ehyeh. This comes from the book that I wrote on the 72 names of God, Practical Guide to the 72 Names of God. And it's in that book, and it's part of how we use the 72 names of God in the proper way. It's not just visualizing the names. We have to make sure that we make an interweaving of this name and also a Yichud as well. So in this case, we're going to use the first name of God of the 72 names, which is Vav He Vav. And if you add the Yod He at the end, we create the name for the angel Vehuya, will and new beginnings. To meditate properly and activate this name, we have to make a Yichud, which we're going to talk about Yichud after this, with the letters of this name and the letters of the name Ehyeh. So we're going to put them together like we did before. In order to do this, we write the first letter Ehyeh followed by the first letter of Vav, He, Vav, and so on the following way. So we have the Vav, the He, and the Vav from this name, right, from Vehuya, and then we add the Ehyeh in the middle. When I say in the middle, I mean, that we put that name first, because this name of Ehyeh is going to be impregnated with this name of God from the 72 names of God. Okay? Now, after we meditated on the Yichud mentioned above with the proper intention, we must now bring down this Ibur, which is this impregnation using the name Adonai. And this is the part that we use the Yeshuv, right? The name Adonai has the force of the will to receive, and the name Yod He and the Vav He has the force of the will to give. Together represent Serampin and Nukva, or Tifaret Malchut. The union of these two names assure us the activation of the energies of the 72 names. Are channeled properly by Yod He and the Vav He and received by the proper container, which is Adonai. To do this, we write the first letter of Adonai followed by the first letter of the Yod He and the Vav He, and so on. So we have Adonai plus Yod He and the Vav He, and we have Yod He Vav He and Adonai, and that's how we do the Yeshuv. Just like we mentioned in the simple meditation that you can practice every day, we can do that as well. That's to bring down that energy. So in meditating with the names of God, we're gonna do a Yichud, and we're gonna bring down that energy by doing then Yeshuv, right? And that's how we are going to bring down the energy of this name of God to be manifested in our lives. Now, Remember that the Shiluv is a Kabbalistic technique that enhances spiritual practices by integrating and harmonizing different names of and attributes of God. By creating these interwoven combinations, practitioners aim to invoke specific spiritual qualities and achieve a deeper connection with the divine. Each Shiluv practice is unique and can be tailored to the individual's spiritual goals and needs. So the example that I gave you are not the only example. There's plenty of examples that you can actually look at and find. For example, there's people that like to do the union or interwoven the names of Yohevah Sevaot with Elohim Sevaot, because it's have to do with concepts that have to do with war. What kind of war we're fighting here? The war against our evil inclination. And how can you do battle using these two names? Is by balancing these two forces, right? Balancing these two forces within us, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hatov. And it's very important to understand that as we meditate, that it's balancing. What we're doing is balancing. We're creating a structure that in which we are meditating on this balancing of these concepts within ourselves. Now let's talk about the concept of Yichud. It's only one yod. It's two yods in here, so it's only one yod. It's just Yichud. There's an extra yod there. So it's a grammatical error there. So Yichud, the Kabbalistic practice of unification, involves meditating on the unity and oneness of divine names, attributes, or concepts to achieve spiritual oneness with God. Okay? So what we're doing here, in the other one, we're putting things together, but they're not kind of like becoming one. They're just, each of these forces are on one side or the other, but they're balanced, right? In here, we're making them one. Here, we're trying to not balance them, but to bring them together to the center, right? We're not mixing them, we are unifying them. Remember, that's the big difference. The Kabbalah teaches when we're meditating, we're not mixing forces, we're unifying these forces, we're balancing them. Examples of Yichud, you will have the Yoh and the Vahev and Adonai. Once again, this practice involves meditating the unification of the Tetragrammaton and Adonai by focusing on their combined form. Practitioners seek to unify the transcendent and immanent aspects of God. So once again, you're going to see this form is very familiar, right? It's just like the Yeshuv. The difference is that in the meditation, you're going to contemplate the harmonious balance between God's justice and mercy, transcendence and immanence, but as one, everything as one. At this time, we're not trying to balance them. This time we are putting them together as one. It's a way, when we put this Yichud, it's a way like, for example, it's a way to try to use this name so our vessel, which is a vessel of reception, can become like the Creator, in which the good and the evil, the justice and the mercy are so unified that you cannot tell one from the other. Okay? Also, there's a Yichud of the Sefirot, just like the other one, which same examples, Chesed and Geburah, and we meditate on these attributes and how they complement each other and create balance in a divine, right? How this balance influence, can help us, but also at the same time we're bringing them together. It's like Chesed and Geburah part Tifaret. So these two concepts of loving kindness and strength, how these two concepts can become one, and this is where meditating also on the aspect of Tiferet can also help, even though we're not using Tiferet here, the name Tiferet. Although you can write the name Tiferet, which is a seramping, and meditate on that name as well as a complement to the Yichud that you're doing with the aspects of Chesed and Geburah. And as you can see, they're very similar, the Yichud and the Yishuv, but they differentiate in the goal. One brings balance, the other one unifies. There's a Yichud of Shema and Baruch Shem. Shema Israel and Baruch Shem Kevod, right? So unifying the declaration of God oneness in the Shema with the phrase that follows in it in the Jewish prayer, blessed be the name of his glorious kingdom, we can also unify this. Are we going to put these letters, interwoven together? No. The Yichud here is more about a mental concept of these two verses, right? So, for example, Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, which is a Shema Israel, and then Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Meditation. So we contemplate the complete acceptance of God's sovereignty and unity, expressing both acknowledgement and praises. So here, as you can see, this is it's supposed to be your daily meditation when we do the Shema in the morning and before going to bed. This is basically what we contemplate is in concepts that these two verses represents, and we need to unify these concepts, right? So we try to connect to the unity and the acknowledgement of this force called the Creator on us, and acceptance that everything is one, and even good and evil is included in the oneness, right? Also, we can meditate on Yichud of divine light. And here, once again, we're not using names of God, we're using concepts, or Ein Sof, infinite light, meditating on the unification of the divine light that permeates all existence. One example is focus on the concept of or Ein Sof, the infinite light of God. Visualize the endless and all-encompassing light, merging your consciousness with this divine illumination. This is a kind of like a transcendental meditation in which you try to become one with the oneness of the universe, all right? And there's also Yichud of the holy names, for example, the Yohe, Vaheh, and Ehyeh, using the name Yohe, Vaheh, and Ehyeh, which represents different aspects of God's existence and presence. So visualize and meditate on the names Yohed and Vaheh and Ehyeh together. And when you do this, you can put them together like we saw before, with Yohed, Vaheh, and Adonai. And then reflect on God's eternal presence and active being, merging these concepts into a single unified understanding of the divine. In case it's Keter, and imagine Keter, which is represented by Ehyeh, giving that force to the Yohe Vaheh, meaning the Chokmah, Bina, Seramping, and Malchut. So you can visualize Ehyeh over your head, and then the Yohe Vaheh in your body, and things like that. And this is something that will help you connect with the forces and the light that these names represent. So what are the practical use in meditation of the Yichud, right? So once again, these are generalized practical use. So different traditions do it different ways, right? But this is a way that they do it. So you select the divine names and concepts, choose the name, attributes, and concepts that you wish to unify and meditate upon. Then visualize unification. Imagine the chosen elements merging together, creating a harmonious and unified spiritual entity. Contemplate the unifying entity. Focus your meditation on the significant and spiritual meaning of this unification. Reflect on how the combined attributes or names represent different facets of the divine that together form a complete whole. Then recite and meditate. Recite the combined names or phrases, if applicable, because remember, we're gonna just sometimes meditate on concepts. and we're trying to make Yichud with them, so not necessarily our names and phrases. We're gonna use, for example, the Shema and the Baruch Shem Kevod, and these concepts we're just trying to put them together in order to deepen our meditation by visualizing and internalizing the unified spiritual essence. Example of meditation using the Shema and the Baruch Shem, which we talked about before. So the initial phrases, for example, Shema Israel, Hear, O Israel, right? And Baruch Shem Kevod, blessed be the name of His glorious kingdom forever, the Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vad, right? So we have these phrases, and we're gonna make a unification. So what we're gonna do is meditate on the unity of these phrases, expressing the complete acceptance of God's oneness and sovereignty, as we mentioned before. Now, how can we do this meditation? You recite the Shema Israel and the Baruch Shem Kevod together, contemplating the depth of their meaning and their significance in declaring God's unity and glory. Visualize the phrases merging, creating a profound sense of oneness and divine presence. One way to visualize these verses of the Shema Israel and the Baruch Shem Kevod is by visualizing the Hebrew letters as if they were letters made of fire, and then having these two verses merging into one fire, right? One flame. Okay, that's another way to meditate this. In that way, the Shema Israel, right? Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad, right? Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vad, right? Forever and ever, the eternal oneness, eternal flame in our being. So it's something that you can meditate as you're doing the Shema Israel. Now, I'm going to share another meditation that you can do. This is from another book that I wrote. This book is called The Path of Blessings and Gratitude. And this book is been on sale for a while, a few months, I think like a year to be exact. And in there, you're going to find the Shema meditation. This book is based on understanding blessing and being grateful for everyday things in life. They explain what is the difference between blessing and thanking the Creator. Right? It's also a version in Spanish called El Camino de las Bendiciones de Gratitud, which is the same book but in Spanish. So if you're interested, there's a barcode, you can actually get it. But let's go to the Shema meditation. So what we're going to do is the following. I'm going to read the instruction. Place your right hand over the eyes and concentrate on the commandment of loving your neighbor as yourself. Meditate in the large Ain in Shema and the enlarged Dalet in the Chat. Also concentrate in the intention of channeling the energy of seramping. So here we have the Shema, right? The large Ain and the large Dalet, which together they form the word Ed, which is witness, right? The next Kavanot, which is the intention, right? Before the second verse is a way to unite the three holy names of Ehyeh and the Yohevaheh and Adonai. When we unite this name, it's like we're giving up our life for the sanctification of our being. This meditation has as symbol 4 methods of executions prescribed in the Torah, each one corresponding to a spiritual world that we have damaged by following the evil inclination. In fact, this meditation is a way to punish to death or evil inclination. So you're going to find in Kabbalistic Siddur the stoning, burning, decapitation, strangulation. And it's not that we're promoting here, death by this thing. It's that we are basically having in our mind at that moment that we are changing the evil inclination by, in a symbolic way, killing it using these 4 different ways of death, right? And in that way, we are healing our physical, emotional, our intellect and our spiritual levels. And then after that, after we have that intention of killing the evil inclination in ourselves at that moment, so we're killing the evil inclination, we're trying not to be egoistic creatures. Now we are a vessel of receiving for the sake of the Creator. Now we're gonna recite the second verse in an undertone, right? The Baruch Shem Kavod. Then we recite the first paragraph containing 42 words that correspond to the 42 letter name of God in the prayer Ana Bekoach. This verse is from Deuteronomy, and we're going to connect with the letter Yod, and we're going to visualize the letter Yod as a flame, right, in our head. And we concentrate in intention to eliminate negative thoughts and guarding or openings such as our 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and our mouth. Okay, so here we are going to scan or read, right? If you don't know how to read Hebrew, you can scan, or you can read each Ana, Bekoach, Gedulat, Yeminecha, Tahil, Tzerura, and make sure you visualize his name as well. And then you can do the Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Modecha bechol levacha ubechol nefeshcha. So then you continue with that, right? You shall love your God with all your heart, with all your soul. Now we recite the second paragraph, which has 72 words, and it corresponds to the 72 names of God, right? And we're gonna visualize the Hebrew letter Hey, and that's gonna be in our chest on arms. And this letter is going to connect us to Bina. Okay, the Yod connects us to Chokmah. Now we have Bina. And then we scan the 72 names of God. Then after that, we continue with the with the next paragraph, which is, and then you obey the commandments that I enjoin upon you this day, loving the Lord your God and serving him with all your heart and soul, etc., etc. Then when we're ready to do the third paragraph, this third paragraph has 50 words corresponding to the 50 gates of Bina. And this will connect us to Serampin. And as we recite this paragraph, we are going to visualize the Vav in our abdomen. And we concentrate in binding the evil inclination, eliminating any negative and egoistic thoughts in our being, right? And then we do the third paragraph. Therefore, impress these my words upon your very heart, bind them as a sign in your hand, and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead, and teach them to your children, etc., etc. Then when we're ready for the fourth paragraph, and last paragraph of the Shema, this one has 72 words corresponding to the 72 names of God. However, these 272 names of God follow a different order given by Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're trying to connect it with the forces of Malchut. As we recite this paragraph, we're going to visualize the letter Hey, the last letter Hey, from the name Yohe and Vahe in our hips, sexual organs, and legs. And we concentrate on the intention that was that the 248 parts of our body and soul are corrected, and that the evil inclination should not have power what we do in our lives. And then we recite this last paragraph, which is Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Israel ve'amarta alechem ve'asu lachem tzitzit al kanfei gedayechem, etc., etc. So, and that's basically the meditation on the Shema, is that we're meditating on the Shema and the Ve'ahavta and these paragraphs after the Shema, and we are correcting all these aspects in our being, the physical, emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual. And that's why we do this symbolism. What are we going to do? We're going to be strangulating, decapitating, burning, stoning the evil inclination in us to start the day. So it's a good meditation to do with the tefillin for those who practice that. And in this way, we can start the day by already having the intention that the evil inclination will have no power over us during the day. So hope you have found, this very interesting and also, very helpful. So to summarize the Yichud is a profound Kabbalistic practice that aims to unify different aspects of the divine, leading to a deeper spiritual connection and understanding of God's oneness. By meditating on these unifications, practitioners seek to experience the unity and interconnectedness of our creation within the divine essence. Each Yichud practice is unique and can be adapted to the individual spiritual journey and objectives. Like I mentioned before, there's different traditions out there. You're gonna find a lot of Yehudim, a lot of Shiluv, Tzeruf. Later in other lessons, I'm gonna cover the concepts of what is called the Ibur. Ibur is impregnation. It's very similar as a Shiluv, interweaving. But we're gonna do it in a practical way so you can understand what can we do, or how all these concepts of Tzeruf, Shiluv, and Yichud can be used together in order to achieve certain levels of insight and oneness with spirituality. So just because you are meditating doing a Yichudim, that doesn't mean that you can also do some kind of Tzeruf, right? So Tzeruf, Shiluv, and Yichud have differences, but you can use them together as well. And that's what we're gonna see in other lessons as we go with ahead and see in a practical way how they can be used. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about the differences. Remember, as we talk in lesson 1, Tzeruf is a permutation. It focuses on the combinations and permutations of Hebrew letters and words to uncover hidden spiritual meanings and achieve higher consciousness. The Shiluv is the interweaving, involves the integration and interweaving of divine names or attributes to create balance and harmonious spiritual focus. And the Yichud is we unify things, right? Aims at unifying different aspects of the divine to experience oneness with God and the unity of all creation. So keep this in mind. They're very similar, but their goals are different. Especially Shiluv and Yichud can be seen as probably the same because the way the letters are put together. For example, with the Yohe and Vahe and Adonai, but the intention is going to be different, so keep that in mind. So this is it for this second lesson on Kabbalistic meditation techniques. There's gonna be more videos about other meditation techniques in which we're gonna explain and see some examples. I hope that these first 2 videos have actually helped you have an understanding of what these techniques are all about and how you can use them. And these lessons were actually inspired by a question from one of the students of my channel, in which he wanted to know what was the difference between these 3 concepts, because they're so similar, but at the end, the similarity it's there, but the intention is different. Okay, so the intention is different. That's what we need to keep in mind. So this is it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next lesson. Remember that we have the Shabbat series as well that we're doing during these weeks to understand more Shabbat. That's gonna be a long series, so don't miss any of those, because every week we're gonna add something new. So as you practice Shabbat, whether you're Jewish or not, you practice Shabbat your own way, you can add meaning to that day as well. And these meditation techniques will help you a lot. And we will talk about these meditation techniques on Shabbat as well, the Shabbat series. So I hope this lesson is good, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Shalom.